Welcome back to Undefendable. We're going to be doing a guide slash tutorial on how to play Deadpool like a pro. And before we hop into all the details and the role flow, we're going to go over his leaflet. First thing we're going to do is talk about his donuts. Positive status effect. You can have 2 at a time. What else do you do with donuts? You eat them, right? So when gaining this token, you may choose to give it to another player if you're playing multiple players or multiplayer. A player with this token may spend it during their upkeep phase. Roll 1, gain half the value as health. Right? So if this is on my board, they pass over to me. I would roll a die. If I roll a 3, I would gain 2 health. If I roll a 2, I would gain 1. If I roll a 5 or a 6, I would gain 3 health. Really, really, really great, nice passive stall / stabilizing ability or effect. This is his bread and butter. Onomatopoeia, pew pew, unique status effect. Yeah, I can't say it either. During any roll phase, you may spend this token to change one of your dice to a knife or an exclamation point, a knife or a joke, but only if you say a cool or funny onomatopoeia while doing so. This token may not be transferred by any means. This is your bread and butter, people. This is what makes Deadpool such a consistent hero to play and someone I really, really recommend. Ultimately, the knife and the joke are your 4 and 5 on your dice faces. So this is going to be your straight enabler, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. You also gain this from abilities, and you gain this from your defense. Last, RPS, rock, paper, scissors. You can use this defensively or offensively during those roll phases, and you can use it while being attacked to prevent 2 incoming damage. While attacking, add 2. If your shoot card is active, add 3. If spent during your ultimate, you automatically win rock, paper, scissors. Ultimately, you have a shoot card over here, which if it's active, you can use it to automatically win rock, paper, scissors, right? So that's why it's saying if it's active, it's 3 instead of 2. Rock, paper, scissors, you're mostly going to be using defensively, again, to stabilize as a mid-range character. Deadpool is a mid-range character with a lot of burst damage. You want to gain Onomatopoeia fast, cheat out large straights and besmirched for big damage, and then drip value with your donuts and your rock, paper, scissors to heal and to prevent damage when being attacked. He really is one of the most adaptable pacing heroes in the game, depending on the matchup. He can go really fast and run down glass cannon characters. He can outlast and outdamage mid-range characters, and tends to not really have too much of a problem going into high defense characters or the stall type characters, things like that. So let's talk about some of your role phasing, right? So ultimately, if you do not have onomatopoeia on the board, if you do not have this on the board, you want to basically keep a 4 whenever possible and aim for Fiesta or Besmirched. If you do not get those, or if the roll is kind of stalling out, fall back to Donut Holes or Finger Guns for safety. Okay? Finger Guns is your basic. One thing to note, you have to have 4 or 5 of a kind to deal 6 or 7 damage. He does not have 3 unless you upgrade Finger Guns. If you say pew pew whilst pointing finger guns in the air, gain 1 CP. Donut Holes is your 5 on your dice. If you get 3 of them, you get Donut Hole, draw a card, gain donut, and deal 4 pure damage, which is really good. 1, 2, 3 facing dice, and then your 4, which is your knives, is Knife Fight. Pure damage, gain rock, paper, scissors, and an onomatopoeia. If your opponent's doing like a lot of undefendable damage, this is a really good one to get because it gets you onomatopoeia. Besmirched is kind of like your one of your bread and butters. If you can't get the Fiesta, you're probably going to land on the Besmirched. Roll 2 die, and then 6 damage plus this. One of the cool things is if you have an onomatopoeia and you roll 2 die, let's say you roll a 3 and a 3, well, you would only add 2 damage because those are both finger guns. You can spend an onomatopoeia to modify one of the dice to a 4, and then that is an 11 defendable damage turn. So really, really good bursty damage here, and really not too hard to get to with his onomatopoeia package. Wow, I'm going to say onomatopoeia a lot, so hopefully you guys enjoy the way I say it. Taco truck is a small straight, pretty much just damage, 8 to 9 damage, depending on if you use a 1 or a 6. And Fiesta is going to be mostly the bread and butter when you have onomatopoeias on the board. You want to mod your dice with the 4s and 5s to get the large straights. You gain a rock, paper, scissors, you gain a donut, then you deal 8 damage. Most of the time, if you use a 6 in this straight, add 1. So most of the time, you're probably going to get the extra 1, which is a fantastic ability. His mini ult, gain donut, rock, paper, scissors, onomatopoeia, 6 undefendable. And then his ultimate is you gain a status effect, positive, from a different chosen player's leaflet, or gain a donut. If your shoot card is inactive, that's this one. Flip it back to active and deal 14 damage, which is fantastic. Really good damage, especially if you have like rock, paper, scissors. You can add basically another 3, so it's 17 undefendable. His next best ability, or I would say one of his best abilities on the board, is his defense. It looks really underwhelming, I will say, but it's kind of his bread and butter to get his onomatopoeias going if you're being hit with a lot of undefendable damage. On a 5, you gain an onomatopoeia. Any 4s, you deal 1 damage back, right? So here's kind of like a cool scenario. Like, let's say hypothetically you have 2, you roll 4, you can actually use these to mod the dice to deal more damage, which is really, really fun. Okay? Now, that's the basics. Let's do a couple of roll phases just so you can kind of see what we got, right? Okay, so we want to keep the 4s, which are great. Let's just, in this scenario, since we don't have any onomatopoeias, we could just go straight for knife fight roll 1 just to be safe. We get a rock, paper, scissors, we get this, and we deal 3 pure damage back. All right? Now, let's say they swing into us. The first thing you got to note on Deadpool's defense is you heal 1 before you even roll, right? That is awesome because you're automatically mitigating 1 damage no matter what. And then we're going to roll 4, and there we go. There's a 5 right there. So we gain another onomatopoeia off of this, and then let's say we just take 8 damage, okay? Now, why is that so amazing? Well, now I have 2 of these on the board, and I'm going to be able to get some pretty big value off of this, right? So let's go ahead and show you how onomatopoeia works. We're going to roll first. Okay, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. We can either mod the dice to go to donut hole, or we can mod the dice to go to fiesta. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep a 6 and a 2, and then we're going to re-roll these. Ultimately, we just need a 3. We got a 5 there, and then we're going to spend an onomatopoeia, adjust this to a 4, and then we're going to go with fiesta. Roll 2. Oh, well, I'm going to, as an opponent, I'm going to tip this to a 3. Okay, we'll just onomatopoeia it again to a 4, and we'll propose another large straight. So onomatopoeia is really your bread and butter to get this engine going and to always be consistent. So now we're doing 9 damage. We'll throw out a rock, paper, scissors to make it potentially 11 to 12, and then we gain a rock, paper, scissors and a donut from that large straight. And then you just kind of keep cycling that rhythm, right? So Deadpool's upgrades are very, very nice. First, if you draw his defense upgrade it immediately. Because you will heal 2 every time you're attacked, deal 1 back per knife, but here's the big difference. On 5s, you gain 1 onomatopoeia instead of only on 5 gaining an onomatopoeia. It's like if in this current state, if I roll like all 5s, let's say my defensive roll is all 5s, I would only gain 1 onomatopoeia because it's an on ability instead of a gain ability. Now, in that same vein, if I rolled something like this, I would deal 1 damage back, or let's say this. I would deal 2 damage back, but I would only gain 1 onomatopoeia, even though I have 2. Okay? With the upgraded one, let's just move this down here. I gain onomatopoeias. So let's say hypothetically I have 2 onomatopoeias here, and this is my defensive roll. Heck yeah. This is fantastic. Why? Why is this fantastic? I'm going to use this to change this to a 4. I'm going to use this to change this to a 4. I'm now going to heal 2, hit my opponent back for 2 with these 4s, and then gain 2 onomatopoeias. So his defense is a very, very strong upgrade that you want to do as soon as you get it. His next strongest upgrade is going to be his basics. Why? A, it costs 0 CP, which is amazing. B, it gives you more opportunities to undefendable damage if you're versing an opponent with a really strong defense. It also gives you sustainability with the donut. It also gives you your basic at 3 finger guns. If you remember, if you remember, the current one doesn't have 3. So this gives you the ability to have a really strong fallback if you need more consistency. And it gains 1 CP, which is nice, and then gives you that fallback to gain a donut and do undefendable damage. So that is an automatic upgrade for 0 CP. The next one you want to upgrade is going to be your large straight, because you go from 8 to 9 damage to a guaranteed 10 defendable damage. It also gives you the opportunity for some economy. One of Deadpool's, I would say some of his weaknesses, he doesn't draw very good. He's also very sustainable to status effect, like what's that status effect removal. So this gives you draw 3, gain 2 donuts, and 4 pure damage, and you can mod, if the dice are presenting themselves, you can use your onomatopoeias to get to this relatively simply if you need to in a pinch. But the big one is your large straight, Fiesta Dos, is going to be your bread and butter for damage. So that's going to be the second priority if you find that you want to upgrade that ASAP. I would say third priority is Besmirched Dose, just because it gives you a little bit more consistency. You roll 3 dice instead of 2. So you could, if you have Onomatopoeia, you can adjust some stuff. You can get some stuff really nicely. And then it gives you the fallback ability, again, all moddable with Onomatopoeia. It gives you the fallback ability to gain rock, paper, scissors, and again, deal more undefendable damage. Why is that important? There's a lot of really strong meta defensive characters with strong defense. So the more opportunity you have to undefendable damage is really important. Why is this even more important? Because this can be modded with rock, paper, scissors, whereas pure damage cannot. In a pinch, you can definitely upgrade Knife Fight Dose to get the extra pure damage, but you're really upgrading this to go for Stabby. If you get the Onomatopoeias, dealing 11 to potentially 14 undefendable damage is just a lot of damage. But it's situational. You're not going to really roll into this very often. You can mod it if you need to. But this is probably like a B tier. You can do it if you need to, but you don't have to. You definitely have to do Fiesta Dose and the defense and likely Besmirched. And then this one you can just sell. For 2 CP, this is too expensive. All right? His main phase abilities is Finger Gun Reload. If your shoot card is inactive, flip it back to active. Not bad. For 1 CP, you can sell this or you can activate it. It's okay. Just try to win rock, paper, scissors a lot so you don't have to use this one. Do You Feel Lucky is really nice, but it can screw you. I had a game where my opponent was at 2 life, and I played this, and they rolled a 6 to heal 3 instead of die, and I lost that game because of it. But most of the time, this is just 3 undefendable damage to your opponent, unless they magically hit the die that they announce that they want to roll. 2 CP for 2 donuts, very good. What I would suggest is always use this in your second main phase, because if you use it in your first main phase, your opponent may not mod dice or do stuff, and they'll save their CP to get these status effects off of your board for their main phase. So always use Buffet in your second main phase. And then Chimichanga, if this is the only card in your hand, play it to gain any status effect. What you really need to read here is the bottom part. Let's be honest, you're better off selling this if you do gain 2 CP instead of 1, for proving that you read... Sorry about that. Got cut off there for a second at barking dogs. Ultimately, you're going to sell this for 2 CP because you actually read what the card says. Gain 2 CP for realsies. Smelt It. Whoever smelt it, dealt it. Really kind of nice combo card. Sometimes you'll get this off, sometimes you won't. Attack modifier to add damage. Play this with Dealt It card to gain a CP. So you could play this and then play this to add 2 damage. 3 if you play these together. So can sometimes be nice, but most of the time you're going to play one or the other, or you're going to sell it to enable some sort of a dice mod. Lastly, these are both very, very good instants for 1 CP. These are amazing. You can treat What's Onomatopoeia as if it's like a really, really good dice mod, because ultimately you can play this out and then change any one of your dice to a 4 or 5, right? Which is really good for 1 CP. That's fantastic. Again, unlocking that large straight, just enabling it to be even that much more consistent if you have this on there. And then gaining rock, paper, scissors as an instant. Basically, you're guaranteed or potentially preventing 2 damage or dealing more damage with the rock, paper, scissors. So, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this. I'm going to try and do more of these. Appreciate you guys following and checking out some of these guides. I guess last tactical tip would just be when declaring your dice or your attack with 0 onomatopoeias, expect your opponent to mod them. If you have 1, declare Fiesta as early as you can with Besmirched as a potential fallback. Don't chase Donut Hole from scratch unless the rolls put you there. And then be mindful of status removal, right? If you have 2 donuts and an onomatopoeia and an RPS on the board, you bet your ass if they have it, they're going to hit you hard with those status effect removals. So try and be conscious of not stacking too many of your status effects on you, because it just makes you susceptible to removal. So Deadpool, mid-range tormentor, mid-range brawler, beat 'em up, can go fast, can go slow, can stall, can sustain, strong versus mid-range and defense-heavy heroes that feed your defense, right? And then I would say his weakness are, anyone that has access to extremely easy, undefendable attacks, because you're going to be getting onomatopoeia a lot less. And then control type heroes that can potentially remove onomatopoeia from your board. So appreciate you watching. Go out there, play Deadpool like a pro, and when you do, think of me. Bye!